just to clarify, that bit of music was something I wrote back in 1998, so don't take it too seriously. It was just the first chance I've had to record it properly, if that's the word. I've got a couple of notes over here, just so if you see me looking over here, this is why. First time I've done a review of anything musical ever. Now, I've had the Joyo Jackman 2, part of the Bantam XL range, now for over a month. Now, the reason for not reviewing it immediately was for a number of reasons. One, I wanted to bed in with it and make sure that I didn't give either an overly positive or overly negative review just based on the fact that it was, ooh, new, shiny. Now, the difference between this special edition and the normal Jackman 2 is this one's nice and gold. It's got gold shiny stuff, right? And this has got a number which hopefully you'll be able to see there. Is number 62 of 200 that'll ever be made. Right, so I'll put that on one side for the moment, we'll come back to it. So I paid, I think it was 160 quid for this. It's not that much more expensive than the Jackman 2, and I thought, might as well, you know, bump the extra 20 quid or so, which is what I did. Now the tune you just heard, everything that's not drums, that means including the bass, went through that. No EQing, the guitars had a slight little bit of reverb, there was some compression on the bass. Yes, the bass went through that as well. It makes a wonderful bass amp. It really does. It's one of those little hidden features. So you can use it to record your bass as well, is what I'm saying. So let's just go through some of the features on it, right? I'll put a timestamp for you to skip through if you already know this. Now, unlike the first version, you have 2 channels on this, so you've got 2 sets of knobs. Now, you've obviously got your on-off switch. I don't need to tell you what that does. If I do, then you know, there's no hope. Now at the top you've got a little tiny switch between your clean and your overdrive channel, and you've got a Bluetooth switch to turn your Bluetooth on and off. Now I haven't used the Bluetooth a lot, and the reason is that all my backing tracks that I used to jam onto were on my old HTC M8 phone, which died about 3 years ago, and I simply never got round to putting them on my new phone. So I haven't really tried out too much. You know, I've done some stuff with it, but you know, it would be useful, incidentally, for anybody that was like a single performer and you want to play over some backing tracks and sing. You could have your backing tracks going by Bluetooth from iPad, phone, whatever, straight into this, have your guitar signal with it, and then into the PA, mic at the PA, boom, jobs are good. You can obviously change the channels via the foot switch, which we'll cover in a minute. Now on the back, first things first, you've got the lovely Bluetooth aerial, you've got the power in, you have the speaker output. Now speakers, they recommend to use either an 8 or 16 ohm. I put this through my 4x8 cab, which is an 8 ohm cab. I was surprised at how loud it is. It sounds a lot louder than 20 watts. So obviously, if you put it through 16, it'll be half as loud. Use 2 16s, adds up to 8. So, you know the maths. Hopefully, if you don't, well, there's probably a video somewhere on YouTube. There's the headphones out, which is what I use for recording. None of it was mic'd up. It was direct through the headphones out. There is a speaker simulation on that. I will cover that later on. There's a send and return loop as well. Now, what else do you get in the box with this thing? Let's cover the boring stuff. Speaker cable. Decent quality, actually. Probably won't replace that. Cable for the foot switch. Not quite as good sort of quality for some bizarre reason. It'll do. Might want to replace it, you know, it is what it is. In fact, you probably will. You have the power supply unit, which has got the, I can't remember where I've put it. I'm sure I put it around here somewhere. Anyway, but there's a little pluggy in bit with a wire on, and this goes at the back of the amp. I'm going to cover about this later on. Does it work? Yes. Does the job? If you're in the house, not a problem. You know, especially if you're playing through headphones so you don't annoy the elderly neighbours that seem to have hearing like bats. You also get this wonderful instruction leaflet which tells you how to use the Bluetooth. That says Chinese, I don't know if you can see it. And then the other side is in English, right? And it covers everything you need to know in there. Probably not a good idea to put a Jackman, you know, 2 through an 8 ohm cab, just saying. Now the foot switch itself, this is quite well made. In fact, it's very well made. Just like the head itself, it's basically just a, you know, pressed bent lump of metal, but it's got enough weight to it. The foot switch seems decent enough quality, I would have no problems gigging with this. One, it's got enough weight so that you're not going to accidentally knock it with your foot and flying 6 foot across the stage or the floor. It's got some nice little feet on the bottom. You might want to put some rubber on it, you know, just a little rubber jobbies on there just to keep it there, or Velcro it to a pedal board, whatever you want. But yeah, I wouldn't even think of replacing that. That's fine. So if we put that over there. Now, what does it sound like? It's allegedly, he says using finger quotes, based on the Marshall JCM 800. Now, that was the sound of 80s heavy metal in many ways, along with the Mesa Boogie, which is the reason why I picked a tune that I wrote back in 1988. I think it was 88, it might have been 1990, I don't know, around there. Something quite simple, power chords. But it is a very versatile amp. It sounds rather nice. It does have a tube inside it in the preamp, although the power amp is transistor, right? The preamp has a tube. Now, I've tried a lot of things like this. I've got another amp head upstairs from a different company. It also uses a 12EX7, I think it is, tube. And to be honest, that sounds a bit rubbish. I use that just as a front for my pedals, right, and my pedal board. The majority of my sound on that's coming from my pedal board, not through the bloody amp head, because it's rubbish. This is a whole different beast. Is it an exact recreation of a Marshall JCM 800 series amp head or combo? No, it's its own beast. It's a step upwards from the first edition of it. Now, I would say that, remember, this, as it's based on a Marshall, right, the clean channel, you're not looking at Roland Jazz Chorus clean here, right? It's not sparkling clean everywhere. This is Marshall clean, which means you can overdrive it, you know, fairly easy. In fact, with my Telecaster, which I might do a little bit if I've got enough time before my daughter comes back from school, do a little bit just live straight into the amp with my Telecaster and show that you can get, you know, it's not just for, you know, it's metal sound. You can get a fairly convincing Keith Richards sound with a Telecaster as well, in OpenG. So you can do a lot with it. You might think to yourself, well, look, this has only got one tone control. How am I supposed to control my sound? Trust me, this thing here in the middle, right, magic. And I'll tell you why. There are a great many amps and more commonly amp simulators out there. And they do what I call polishing the turd, right? They all sound rather impressive. But it doesn't matter whether you're sticking a Telecaster into it that is a vintage 62, you know, or, you know, an Encore that costs you 50 quid off the local market. It will sound basically the same. It's polishing the turd. Yes, it might sound very impressive, but it's taking away the character of the instrument. What this does is retain the character of the instrument that you're putting in. So, if I put my Gretsch resonator, which is highly modified, has a national pickup on it, which you might cover in another video, that sounds completely different to my Telecaster, which sounds different to my Strat, you know, which sounds different to the Ibanez, which sounds different to the Epiphone, Nighthawk, you know, they all have a character, they all have their own voice, and that's what I like. It means that you're not just stuck with the same sound as everybody else, right? Now, being based on a Marshall, a lot of you might be aware that you can get some rather interesting sounds by, you know, putting either a treble boost or some sort of a boost pedal before it. What I haven't done in the videos you've heard, any of the samples you've heard, because it's not really there, but I have been trying as well, is I've got a tube screamer clone, which you can flick a switch and turn into a boost pedal. So I've got that coming after an old Sound City 70s overdrive, and it gives an absolute beautiful tone. I've also, you know, got to run some tests with the preamp that I have, the Fishman preamp that I use for my acoustics and my slide work as well, because with electric guitar I would have feeling it might even change things a little bit more. So what would I do if I was allowed to be in charge of the Jackman 3, assuming there ever is one? Right, first thing I would say is, unless you're miking up, the only way to record this is through the headphones out, which has a cabinet simulator applied obviously internally in the circuit. What I would like is a way to turn that off. Because if you're anything like me, you've got loads of impulse responses for various cabinets and vintage gear that you could probably never afford all of it in a million lifetimes. So it would be nice to be able to turn theirs off and use one of the ones I already have. Quite a simple request, you'd think. Because then I could do a lot more, and you could probably improve the tone even more. I've got a feeling that with the right impulse response, that would be really, really, really special. The second part is the power supply. Now, the power supply is perfectly serviceable. There may well be an aftermarket version you can buy somewhere on eBay or Amazon or wherever. I haven't looked because, you know, at the moment everybody's locked down with COVID, right? Nobody's gigging, so it doesn't really matter right now. What I'd like to say is one of either two things. Firstly, they managed to integrate the power supply into the amp head on the version 3, and it's just a kettle lead at the back. Great, everybody's happy. Or the power supply is made a lot more robust, or at the very least a more robust version available for sale. Because if I can reach in here and find this would work fine in your bedroom, right? You'd never have any problems with it, unless you're constantly one of those people that's like take the power in and out and stuff like that, right? No one have problems with it. However, I would not feel confident gigging every weekend with this, because it's going to go wrong. And then trying to find a power supply, and I can't read this without my reading glasses, that's an exact match to this, it's probably going to be a pain in the backside, and you're not going to be able to do it last thing on a Friday or Saturday night before you do a gig. So you really need a reliable power supply. So that's the one thing I think is a biggie. The head itself, it's very well made. I think one of the things that's most attractive to me, which might not be to a lot of you, is the fact that I'm getting older, right? I've got like a white beard and stuff, and I've got loads of arthritis in my lower half, so I don't want to be carrying massive amp heads about, but I can lift this up with my middle finger easily. You know, this really is a tiny terror of an amp, and you can get some lovely tones out of it. But again, is it going to make you insert name a favourite guitarist here? No. That's not down to the amp head. That's down to you, and these, and this, right? So it's not going to magically make you a better player. Will it give you a better sound? Depends what gear you've got, really. You know, if you're sitting on a vintage blues breaker, you know, then maybe you don't need something like this. If you've got a nice Marshall JCM 800 head, you know, and maybe you don't need this. But for 160 quid, which is the time I paid about a month or so back, I think it's a steal. I wouldn't let the... Anyway, my name's Ian Robson. Why did you listen to me? Well, you don't have to. I've been playing since I was 6 and I'm 49 now, so, you know, while I'm gigs all over the place, mostly in dodgy pub bands and things like that. But I currently play a lot of blues and slide stuff, so that's what I do. As well as my day job being a visual effects artist and working in computer games. So there you go, a bit of a background. I'm going to put this on both of my channels. My main one, where a lot of my 3D and visual effects stuff is, because it has the most subscribers. And also on the second channel, which has got about 6 subscribers, and I'm going to try and build that up, right? So I would say, I hate saying this, but like and subscribe, hit the little bell thing, you know the drill now. Come on, throw us a bone here, right? Either way, I'll see you either in a second or next time. Bye bye.